My name is Thomas Bradley, 52 years old, Chief Financial Officer for a mid-sized corporation in Chicago. I used to think I was strong, rational, in control of my emotions, my finances, even my losses. I believed a man didn't need to express himself, didn't need to complain, didn't need anyone to understand. Every morning I woke up at 5, brewed coffee, opened my laptop, read the financial headlines, got to the office before everyone else, left after everyone else, drove home, had dinner with my wife and daughter in silence, then returned to spreadsheets at 11 o'clock at night. The next day was the same. The week after, the same. The months, unchanged. The years, identical. Was that living, or was I just existing in the shell of someone slowly running dry? I didn't realize I was dying. Not the cinematic kind of death, not a hospital bed kind, but the quiet kind. Dying in politeness, dying behind a perfect schedule, dying while still working, dying while people praised me for being resilient, but no one asked what was happening inside me. I never believed in things like the soul. I used to smirk when people talked about the afterlife. I believed in numbers, in markets, in performance. I believed that if I was good enough, I could control everything. But what I couldn't control was myself. I couldn't control my fading sleep, my daughter's growing silence, the irregular beat of my heart in the stillness. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what am I living for? Not just to survive, but to truly feel present in your own life? I never asked that. I just ran. I ran from silence. I ran from emotion. I ran from the reflection of my own eyes in the mirror. And then my body spoke. It was a Tuesday morning. I had just stepped out of a meeting when a pain clamped down on my chest like a rope tightening around my heart. I collapsed onto the cold marble floor, as sharp and unforgiving as steel. And as the room filled with panic and people shouting my name, I had only one thought. I never got to tell my daughter I'm sorry. Why sorry? What would make a man like me, who once saw himself as strong and successful, feel regret at the very edge of life? What happened after my heart stopped beating? The answer lies in the place I went to, a place no one wants to walk into. But if you want to truly understand life, maybe you need to take a look through the doorway of death. Are you willing to keep going with me? I don't remember the exact moment I fell, only the cold hardness of the floor striking the back of my neck, followed by a sharp jolt running down my spine, and then silence. There was no white light. No angels, no heavenly music. At first, there was only darkness, but it wasn't frightening. It was empty. Empty in the way that made me feel as if I had been lifted out of the world I once knew and placed into a weightless room with no time, no gravity. I didn't hear anyone calling my name. I didn't even hear myself breathing. And yet somehow, I still existed. Nobody, no heartbeat, but my awareness was still there. Strangely clear and utterly hollow. I saw myself from above. I saw my body lying still, my shirt torn open, a doctor pressing hard against my chest, blood rushing to my face, and a colleague's trembling hand dialing my wife's number. I should have been panicking, but I wasn't. I simply remained there, or rather, floated there, like an invisible part of me was watching the body that used to be me. Then a light began to open before me. It wasn't bright, it wasn't warm or cold, but it drew me in with a force I couldn't resist. It said nothing, yet somehow I knew I was being called. One question repeated in my mind, not in words, not in sound, just presence. Who am I, if I am no longer this body? I had no mouth, no hands, no eyes, yet I could still feel. And in that feeling, memories began to return. I remembered my failures. I remembered every glance I had brushed aside, every sharp word I threw out in the name of busyness. I remembered standing in front of my daughter, wanting to hug her, but walking away because I was afraid to look weak. And those memories didn't come back as images. They came back as emotion. I didn't just see what I had done. I felt the pain others had endured because of me. Was there something at work in this world that I had never understood? Was there a law that governs the soul, untouched by logic or reason? I kept drifting. I don't know how long. I didn't know where I was going. Everything was still, strangely still, but not lonely. I sensed something approaching, a presence, a light that felt deeply human, as if it both forgave me and required something of me. And when it arrived, I understood. This was no longer just about me. I kept floating, without weight, without direction, without identity. But strangely, I wasn't panicking. It felt like a deep dream where you know you have no control, yet you don't want to run. I realized I was no longer afraid. Not afraid of losing status. Not afraid of death. The only thing I feared in that moment was being truly seen. Because I knew I was entering a space where nothing could be hidden. No word was forgotten, no action overlooked, no thought passed by without leaving a trace. I began to feel something surrounding me like water, yet it wasn't wet. Each current was a memory not only of mine, but of everyone I had ever encountered. I saw the angry eyes of an employee I had unjustly scolded. I felt the quiet hurt in my wife when I came home late on our anniversary. I sensed the disappointment in my daughter's heart when I said, "I'm busy, maybe later." Every moment, no matter how small, reappeared like a thread, pulling me into a deeper reality. And the deeper I went, the more I understood that life is not a series of events, but a trail of emotions we leave behind in others. I didn't see God. I didn't meet a judging presence, but I felt something, an awareness, vast and neutral, yet profoundly understanding, guiding me through each layer of memory. No one asked me what was right or wrong. Only I felt the weight of my shame. Because I knew I could have loved more. I could have been softer. I could have paused and truly listened. Why didn't I? Why had I chased invisible goals while leaving behind hearts that only needed me to show up? I thought I didn't have time, but the truth was, I had an entire lifetime. I just didn't know how to use it. Can you imagine if someone showed you everything you had ever done, thought, buried, or forgotten, but this time, through the emotions of those you unknowingly hurt? I saw it, and it wasn't pleasant. Are you willing to look back at yourself through the eyes of someone you once hurt without even realizing it? I don't know how long I kept drifting. There was no clock, no sun, no sound except the echo of my thoughts. Yet in that absolute stillness, doors of memory began to open one after another, as if someone were projecting the entire film of my life, scene by scene, but not seen with the eyes, but felt with the soul. I saw myself at 8 years old, hitting a classmate for calling me a skinny coward. I could feel the fear in his trembling hand, the sting of betrayal, not from the punch, but from the loss of someone he thought was a friend. I saw myself at 14, skipping school for the first time, lying to my parents, and realizing I could manipulate other people's emotions with words. From then on, I used language as a tool to persuade, to control, to hide. Then I watched myself grow older. College, relationships, breakups, launching a business, finding success, marrying, and becoming a father. But what terrified me wasn't the events. It was what each moment left behind. The emotions rippling outward, like water expanding in circles. I didn't just see myself succeeding. I saw my wife's loneliness when I missed our child's first birthday. I didn't just see myself angry. I felt the years of broken confidence in the employee I had humiliated in front of a crowd. I used to think it was nothing, just stress, just a sharp word. But now I understood that single sentence robbed him of his belief in himself for years. Then I was shown something no one had ever told me. Nothing in life is truly private. Every action creates waves. Every choice, even unintentional, carries consequences. And what I once considered a personal matter had become a turning point in someone else's life. I saw myself as the recipient of my own choices. I felt the silent tears that never fell. I heard the quiet ache in my daughter's heart as she wrote in her diary, "Dad's always tired. I don't want to bother him." My chest tightened. No one condemned me, but I passed judgment on myself. I used to believe I was a good man, but now I had to ask, good in whose eyes? By what standard? And if I hadn't left behind love, had I lived at all? I never thought about any of this, not until death forced me to see it. But if I had the chance to return, I would live differently. Do you think I was given that choice? I assumed what I was being shown was just a fast-forward reel of what had already happened. But it wasn't. This wasn't memory. It was reliving. And this time, I wasn't standing in the role of the main character. I was placed in the shoes of every supporting one who had ever passed through my life. I felt the quiet frustration of my aging mother when I was too busy to call. I used to believe you had to do something big to make an impact. Now I understand the greatest thing is to be truly present in the smallest things. I started to tremble, not from fear, but from not knowing whether I would ever get the chance to do it differently. That was when a quiet light surrounded me. No face, no voice, but I knew it was waiting for my choice. And then, for the first time since I had left my body, I was asked, "Do you want to go back?" I didn't hear the question in words, but I knew it was there. A presence both gentle and firm was waiting for my answer to something I never expected to face so soon. Do you want to go back? What did going back mean? Did it mean returning to that fragile body struggling on a hospital bed? To the fractured heartbeat, the shallow breath, and the responsibilities I had once pushed aside? Or did it mean staying, in this place wrapped in light, where pain no longer reached me, where I was fully known without speaking a word? I used to think that if I had the chance to walk away from the pressure, the tangled relationships, the endless meetings, I would take it without hesitation. But now, with the choice laid bare before me, I found myself hesitating. I saw my daughter's face not as a memory, but as if she were truly there. Her wide eyes at 6 years old, the night I promised to attend her school performance but missed it for an urgent meeting. She didn't say anything, just quietly took off her princess dress and went to bed early. I saw my wife too, the woman I once vowed to love with everything in me, yet who had received only silence for years. Not because I didn't love her, but because I had forgotten how to love as someone who is truly present. I saw old friends I never called back, apologies I never gave, simple moments I once told myself I'd come back to. But when is later, really? I had spent my life running from emotion, from truth, from myself. But now, in this light, I was terrified of losing the chance to make things right. And that hurt more than anything. If I stayed, I would be at peace. If I returned, I would have to face the broken pieces I had left behind. There would be no applause, no guarantees, just one chance, one fragile, precious chance to love differently. I wasn't sure if I deserved it, but I knew if I turned away from that chance, I would carry the weight of regret forever. So I said it, not in words, but in thought. I want to return, not to live the way I did, but to truly live for the first time with awareness. The light gently withdrew. There was no applause, no reward, just the quiet certainty that I had chosen. And in that instant, I felt a powerful pull, like being snapped back into form, like falling from a great height. Everything lit up, then went completely dark. Did I wake up? Could my body still hold on? Would I get the chance to live differently, or had I come back too late? I used to think death was the end, but it's not. Death is a mirror. No one forced me to look into it, but the light that surrounded me made it impossible to look away. And in that mirror, I didn't see a successful man. I saw a soul losing itself. No one accused me, but every forgotten moment became a silent verdict. Every touch I failed to give, every word of love I left unspoken, every careless act turned into an unanswered question. Why didn't I pause? Why didn't I look my child in the eyes when she was speaking to me? Why did I treat love as something guaranteed instead of something that needs to be nurtured every single day? In that moment, I stopped seeing the light as a miracle. The real miracle was the time I once had and never cherished. I wish I could go back, not to do something great, but just to listen again, to see my wife's face when she smiled, to hug my daughter without thinking about the emails I hadn't answered. I lived as if I were immortal, as if there would always be a tomorrow. But in the soul's light, I knew there was no tomorrow guaranteed. I began to cry, not with tears, but with every beat of a heart that had already stopped, but still longed to love, just once more. And as the light gently began to draw back, I heard, not with my ears, but within, a thought that pulsed clearly. Love is the only thing that remains in the end. Do you want to return? I did, not to live for myself, but to repay the love I once withheld, to fulfill a promise I had left unfinished, to look into the eyes of those I love and not look away. I didn't know what pain might wait for me if I returned, but I knew staying would mean abandoning a responsibility I could no longer ignore. So I chose to return. The entire space trembled with something like a silent quake. No sound, but a vivid sensation. I was falling, not into death, but into the very life I had once left behind. But would I wake up in time? Would that body still be able to hold my soul? And if I did awaken, how would I live from that moment on? I woke up to the steady beeping of the heart monitor. My eyes opened slowly, not because I was tired, but because I was afraid that what I had just experienced might have been an illusion. But it wasn't. I knew with absolute certainty it hadn't been a dream, because I had never felt more awake. A stark white ceiling, the sterile scent of antiseptic, the silhouettes of doctors and nurses pass behind the glass. My body ached. My chest felt like it had been struck by a hammer. But inside, there was something unfamiliar. Light. Still. As if I had been cleansed of the noise that had occupied my mind for over 50 years. My wife sat beside me, dark circles under her eyes, yet unable to hide the relief that flooded her face when she saw me awake. I reached for her hand, said nothing, just held it gently. For the first time in a very long time, I didn't need to speak for someone to feel the love within me. My daughter entered the room afterward. Her eyes were red and swollen, but when she saw me, she froze. She didn't run to me. She didn't cry out. She just stood still, waiting to see if her father had truly returned. I held out my hand. She looked at me for a long moment, then slowly stepped forward. That hug wasn't just a reunion. It was the mending of a bond that had been frayed for years. I started over, not with a grand speech, but with small acts. I learned how to look someone in the eye. I learned how to listen without planning my reply. I practiced putting down my phone during dinner. I practiced saying sorry without explanation, and thank you without occasion. Each morning when I woke up, I stopped asking, what do I have to do today? And started asking, how can I love today? No one knew I had died. They just said I had changed. I seemed calmer, softer, quicker to smile. They figured the incident had shifted my perspective. But they didn't know I had been to a place where everything I once believed to be true was stripped away. And the only thing that remained was love. But there's one thing I haven't told anyone. Every night, when I close my eyes, I still remember that light. I still hear the quiet question that lingers inside me. If tomorrow is your last day, how will you live today? And I know that question wasn't just for me. It's meant for you too. I used to think that to change your life, you needed a big push. But I was wrong. What changed me wasn't dying. It was the moment I understood the impact of the things I once thought were small. And so, I began with the small things. I cleaned my desk, not for tidiness, but because I no longer wanted to live surrounded by unresolved pieces of my past. I reached out to an old friend I had once argued with, just to say, I've missed you. I wrote a little note and tucked it into my daughter's lunchbox. I'm proud of you. Not because she got a good grade, but because she has always been my light, and I had failed to see it. I called my mother every week, not out of obligation, but because I wanted to hear her voice clearly. I wouldn't live with the regret of not listening while I still had the chance. I returned to work, but now I say to my team, thank you for showing up today. I learned to offer praise without needing a reason. I began to see them not as resources, but as people, carrying stories I knew nothing about. And something began to shift. A young employee who used to be tense now smiles more. Another manager started pausing long enough to listen. My wife began humming again while she cooked, something she hadn't done in years. And my daughter looked at me longer when she spoke, as if trying to see if I was back. I didn't give her an answer. I just stayed present. Every day, I don't try to become a better person. I simply try not to miss what is already here. I no longer search for the meaning of life in lofty goals. Now, meaning lives in whether or not I show up fully for each moment. Someone once asked me, aren't you afraid you'll go back to your old ways? Yes, I am, because the old ways are familiar. But every time I feel myself rushing, about to snap, or choosing silence instead of love, I remember that light. And I remember the way my daughter held me after I woke up. I once died. Let go of urgency. Let go of expectations. Let go of the habits I once thought I couldn't live without. to return to the few things that truly nourish the soul. People often ask me, what did death teach you? But I don't think death taught me anything. What taught me was the chance to return. Because you don't grasp how much life is worth until you find yourself outside of it, realizing you'd been sleepwalking through what matters most. I'm not perfect. I still get frustrated. I still want to give up sometimes. I still get pulled into old rhythms. But the difference now is I recognize when I'm drifting, and I choose to come back more quickly. I became someone who lives with awareness. And the thing I never expected is that awareness, without preaching or noise, quietly spreads to others. Like light in the dark. It doesn't need to shout that it's shining. It just shows up. But can a person truly change forever? Or is this just a passing spark after a profound experience? Can I stay grounded when life gets busy again, when the old patterns try to pull me back in? I used to think a near-death experience would turn me into an entirely new person, as if stepping out of the light would mean never looking back. But I was wrong. Life does not bend easily. A month after I left the hospital, the work piled up. Unanswered emails, urgent deadlines, and pressure from higher-ups all began knocking on my mind again. The phone started ringing nonstop. Meetings dragged on. And those words, "Daddy's busy," slipped from my lips more easily than I ever thought they would. I felt myself drifting back, like a boat pulled toward shore only to be dragged again by the same old current. But this time, something was different. I saw it happening. And that's the greatest strength of awareness. Not that you always stand firm, but that you recognize when you're off course and choose to return. I took a day off, no major reason, just to make breakfast for my daughter, take my wife for a walk, sit alone and read a book I kept saying I'd get to later. That day brought no accomplishments, no praise, but for me, it was a quiet victory. I had won against the old version of myself waiting in the shadows to pull me back into the noise. I began journaling every night. Nothing long, just a few lines. Was I truly present today? Did I love the right way? Did I listen or just wait for my turn to speak? And slowly, I came to understand something. Awakening is not a fixed state. It's a daily choice. Like a muscle, if you don't use it, it weakens. If you're not intentional, you'll start drifting again. I started talking to more people, not to pass time, but to truly connect. I listened to a taxi driver share about his late wife. I took time to check in on an elderly neighbor I used to only wave at in passing. I sent a thank you letter to a high school teacher who once told me when I was 15, "You have a deep heart, don't hide it." I began to look at others as if they too had just returned from some sacred light and were simply trying their best within the limits of this world. I'm not a teacher, I'm just someone who made it back. But if my story can help even one person pause, take a breath, and ask, "Am I living?" then maybe my return had a purpose. Have you ever asked yourself, if tomorrow were your last day, how would today be different? Or will you keep repeating the same patterns, telling yourself there's always time? I once asked, who am I if I no longer have this body? Now I ask, who am I if I don't live true to this heart? Death didn't steal my life. It gave me back its meaning. Before, I lived like a machine, high-functioning, goal-oriented, dependable. But my heart, the heart of a man who thought he was strong, had been dead for a long time without me realizing it. It wasn't until I was shown my entire existence, not through images, but through the emotions of those whose lives I had touched, that I understood. Living isn't about surviving. It's about being present. Living isn't about how much you accomplish. It's about how real you are. You may never have a near-death experience like I did. You may never see the light, leave your body, or fly through your memories. But you have something I didn't when my heart stopped. You have the chance to choose, right now. You can pause, look into the eyes of someone you love, ask them honestly, "Are you okay?" You can call that old friend, send the message you've been too nervous to write, say the words of love you keep putting off for tomorrow. You don't have to die to live differently. You don't need a crisis to wake up. You just have to choose. Choose love over reaction. Choose presence over control. Choose listening over planning your next line. Each morning, when I open my eyes, I no longer ask, "What will I get done today?" I ask, How will I love today? That's how I begin again, every day. No gates of light, no deep visions, just a heart that remembers what it once forgot. And you can do the same, right now. Because if tomorrow is your last day, then today is your greatest chance to become the person you once hoped you'd be. I used to think a near-death experience would turn me into someone completely new, like I'd walk through a door of light and never look back. But I was wrong. Life doesn't make it that easy. A month after I was discharged from the hospital, the weight of life returned. Unanswered emails piled up, deadlines loomed, reminders from upper management knocked on my mind's door once again. My phone rang non-stop, meetings dragged on, and those old familiar words, "Daddy's busy," slipped out of my mouth more easily than I expected. I felt myself drifting back, like a boat that had just reached the shore only to be dragged again by the old current. But this time, it was different. This time, I noticed the drift. And that, I've learned, is the greatest power of being awake. Not that you never lose your footing, but that you recognize when you've wandered and choose to return. So I took a day off. No major reason, just to make breakfast for my daughter, take my wife for a drive, and finally read the book I had put off for someday. That day brought no accomplishments, no praise, but for me, it was a quiet victory. I had overcome the old version of myself waiting in the shadows to pull me back into the noise. I started journaling each night, nothing long, just a few lines. Was I truly present today? Did I love well? Did I listen, or was I just waiting for my turn to speak? And slowly, I began to understand something. Awakening isn't a one-time event. It's a choice you make, over and over, every single day. Like a muscle, if you don't work it, it fades. If you're not intentional, you'll drift. I began talking to more people, not to pass time, but to truly connect. I listened to a taxi driver tell me about his late wife. I took time to check in on an elderly neighbor I used to only nod at. I sent a thank you letter to the high school teacher who once told me, when I was 15, "You have a deep heart, don't hide it." And I started seeing others as if they too had just returned from some sacred light, just trying their best to live within their limits. I'm not a teacher, I'm just someone who survived. But if my story causes even one person to pause, take a breath, and ask themselves, "Am I living?" then maybe there was a reason I came back. Have you ever asked yourself, if tomorrow were your last day, how would you live differently today? Or would you just keep repeating the same cycle? I'm no longer the man I used to be, but I'm also not trying to become someone else. I'm simply living with the presence I once forgot. I'm not chasing the light anymore, because I now understand light isn't somewhere out there. It lives in every act we carry out with kindness. I still make mistakes. Some days I forget to hug my daughter before leaving for work. There are moments when stress gets the better of me and I raise my voice. Times when I fall silent right when someone needs me to listen. But I return. I apologize. I learn. And I move forward not because I'm some saved man, but because I've seen something too sacred to ignore again. Every person you meet today might be fighting a battle you cannot see. And sometimes one kind gesture, one honest question can save an entire day, maybe even a life. I used to think one person couldn't change the world, but now I know one person can change someone else's world. And sometimes that's enough. We're all going to face our final day eventually, but not everyone truly lives until then. You don't need a tragedy to wake you up. You just need to pause, look someone you love in the eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, am I living like the person I want to become? If the answer is not yet, that's okay. Because there's one beautiful truth death once whispered to me. As long as you're still breathing, you still have a chance. My story isn't about death. It's about how I chose to come back to life.